Good evening, Facebook friends. It's Nathan. Hope all of you are having a nice, quiet evening. I've got quite a bit on my mind tonight, so I wanted to go live for a few minutes and just share a few thoughts with all of you. I'll be obviously talking a lot more in depth on some of this stuff tomorrow when I do my weekly podcast, the Sons of the Republic radio show. But I didn't want to wait. I wanted to talk with you tonight about some things that have been weighing on my mind, on my heart recently. We're living through some pretty dark times in our country, but especially here in the state of Michigan. The continued infringements on our liberty are infuriating, are outrageous. They rob us of our dignity, of our basic God-given rights. I know that most of you listening probably agree with me on that assessment of the situation, and it's gotten considerably more dire over the past week even. Governor Whitmer continues to issue multiple executive orders each week, all of which are illegal and unconstitutional. She's now limiting gathering sizes again, closing indoor service at bars. So for bars that don't have a terrace, a deck, some sort of outdoor seating area, they're pretty much out of luck as far as making any kind of a profit right now. The gyms are still closed. Casinos, they're going to allow those to open at 15% capacity, which, it's almost pointless at that rate. But, yeah, she continues to try to micromanage all of our lives by decree, and it is beginning to feel a lot like East Germany under communism, or the former Soviet Union. There are mass Nazis everywhere you go, trying to shame us, trying to demand that we comply with Hitler's decrees. And it's gotten physical in a number of cases here. There was a woman in Grand Rapids that was actually assaulted in the parking lot, hadn't even made it inside the store, but didn't have a mask on. She was assaulted at the Myers over there on 54th Street because she did not have a mask on, and this other woman who was a mass Nazi didn't like it and decided to start throwing punches. That is the level of fanaticism that we're seeing with Governor Whitmer's brown shirts. I'm proud of all of us on the Patriot side for the extreme level of restraint that we have displayed thus far, but as I've said before, I'm concerned that is going to be misinterpreted as weakness, because these people this is like a religion for them. These people are like cult members. They are like Jim Jones cult members. They have drunk the Kool-Aid. I mean, they're dead enders. You can't reason with somebody that is that far gone. And they are at the beck and call of megalomaniacs like Gretchen Whitmer and Dana Nessel right now. So as if it isn't bad enough that, you know, thousands and thousands of Michiganders are being robbed of their livelihoods. They're being laid off in droves, or their businesses are failing because they're not making any sales. So, their cash reserves are drying up and their businesses are folding. We see it every week here in Muskegon County. There's more announcements of shops, restaurants that are closing and they're not coming back. But now, to suffer these indignities, these humiliations, is almost too much. And, it's a credit to all of you out there that you have been so long suffering, so patient, in the face of all of this, of these travesties. But we're approaching very quickly what is going to be a historical turning point with this upcoming election, for sure. They're not waiting for the election, but that is certainly still going to be a significant inflection point for our country as a whole. And Michigan's a key part of that because we are the hottest battleground state in this country. So they are going to turn up the heat all the way until election day, till November 4th. They will be turning up the heat here. And we see it. I mean, Muskegon, we've got Muskegon BLM handing out flyers, issuing demands, calling for the Muskegon Police Department to be defunded. They're on the march. They're feeling their oats. They're feeling empowered right now. No thanks to our county commissioners like Gary Foster and Bob Skolnick, who I've already excoriated in previous videos for their cowardice and their collaboration with the enemy. Because unfortunately, these people are the enemy. Most of us just want to enjoy our freedoms, live our lives, raise our kids. We just want to be left alone, but they're not going to let that happen. So a lot of us, as I've said before, are going to have a choice to make about how we're going to respond to all of this. And, how do you put a price on your freedom, I guess? how do you put a price on that? I mean, for me, there's nothing that I own that is more valuable than that. There's no kind of, stimulus check or government program that is going to compensate me for the loss of my freedom. They're going to make all kinds of promises about government gravy trains that they're going to run. most of which are lies, but there's nothing that's worth that to me, to surrender my freedom, my constitutional rights for some worthless promises of, material gain in the future, which would obviously be, money that was stolen from somebody else at the point of a government gun. The Democrats are great at dividing people by race, by gender, by class. Who can beat them at that game? That's what they're trying to do right now. But there are still millions of us out there who are awake, who have seen enough to know that there is something wrong, that one way or another things are not going to be the same as they were. They're not going to go back to the way they were prior to March of this year. That's not going to happen. So now the question is, well, what is the new normal going to be? Well, we're seeing the contours of it right now, of the new normal that the left has planned for us. Excuse me. It looks a lot like George Orwell's 1984. It looks a lot like it looks a lot like the beast state that the Bible predicts in Revelations. And I don't want to live under a government like that. I don't want my kids to live as slaves under a tyrannical communist regime, which is obviously what they're planning. We already have a sneak preview of it right now. The censorship that is going on right now on social media platforms is absolutely out of control. I mean, we thought it was bad before, but it's gotten so much worse, especially when that group of physicians, America's frontline doctors, when their video was censored by Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. They all censored, removed any posts of that, tried to eradicate their talk about the reality of what the COVID-19 virus is, and the good news that they've seen firsthand from treating patients with hydroxychloroquine. These are licensed physicians. One of the doctors I'm familiar with, Dr. Simone Gold, is she's a practicing ER physician in California. She's also a lawyer. She's been featured before in USA Today. She spoke at that event. She's not some quack. These are very brave men and women that knew they were going to suffer ridicule. They knew the left was going to come at them with everything, and they still went out there and stood up. They spoke out boldly on this to try to let all of us, the American people, know what their experience was, so we could get, a clearer picture of what the truth really is. And I found out earlier today, Squarespace, the hosting company, took their website down. They claim that they violated their terms of service. So they've been completely deplatformed. If they can do that to a group of distinguished physicians, what can they do to you or I? So we are witnessing unprecedented attacks right now on the First Amendment. And the left is using their dominance of these big tech companies who have way too much power. They need to be antitrusted. They need to be reined in because it has now come to a point where they are stifling political debate, political speech in our country, and they're putting their thumb on the scale to help the political agenda of the Democratic Party. That's exactly what they're doing right now. And there's no appeasing these people. Nobody's going to make a deal. Nobody's going to be able to make a deal with these people. We hope that President Trump, Attorney General Barr, and the Justice Department, we hope that they'll be able to do the right thing here and start putting a stop to some of this bullshit that we're seeing. But one way or another, we each have to individually resolve and make our choice about what we're going to do. Are you going to allow yourself to be intimidated? Are you going to be cowed by these people? Can you live with that? Can you look yourself in the mirror every day and know that, I don't want to say anything because all those liberals at work, I don't know what my boss might do. I might be fired. I can't live with myself that way. I can't. I'm not going to sit down and shut up ever in the face of these people. I'm so pissed off and disgusted at these communist fools, these idiots in BLM and Antifa who think that they are all going to be little commissars who are going to tell the rest of us what to do. They can get bent. I'm not going to surrender to any of you people. If you're watching, you can all go to hell, because it will be a cold day in hell before I ever kneel to any of you. Every one of us has already lost something, and if you think about this and you think this through to its logical conclusion, they want all of us, enslaved, either enslaved under their system, incarcerated, or dead. One of the three, okay? They are our enemy. Unfortunately, they are American citizens, but they have turned on the Constitution and the American form of government. So they are our enemy, and they want to harm us. They want to harm us, and they are waging war on us right now. And yeah, we all have to make that choice, Will you answer the call and fight for freedom? Doesn't matter if you're young, old, red, yellow, black, white, who cares? I'm talking to all of you out there who believe in the Constitution, who believe in the founding ideals of this country and who believe that this country is worth fighting for. There's no age limit on that. There's no racial bias involved in any of that. It's our duty. I mean, it says it right in the Declaration of Independence, that when a government becomes destructive of these ends, it is their right, it is their duty to overthrow that government. That's what it says. Now that's talking about, that's talking about a tyrannical state, which is what the Democrats want to create. Once they have control of the levers of power again, I think we can all imagine the types of things that they would do, because the hard left would be in the driver's seat. And we're all dealing with it now. It's right at our doorstep. We're dealing with it in our everyday lives, at least here in the state of Michigan. There are still some free states like South Dakota, where Governor Kristi Noem has allowed her people to remain free. They never shut down. They've been just fine through this whole mess. But we're already living it in Michigan. I can tell you that. And the economic devastation, the stress that is being put on everyone here from having to comply with these ridiculous mandates. I mean, it's surreal. It's completely un-American. I mean, now they're going to do it to the kids. My stepdaughter is 5 years old. She was supposed to start kindergarten this year. I don't know what the hell she's going to do now. I mean, these kids their whole childhood has been put on hold right now because of Governor Whitmer and her bullshit political agenda. So we're through the looking glass right now. And when she chose to make store employees and enforcers of the mask mandate, that was grotesque what she did to those poor people. They don't make that much money to begin with, and now they've been coerced into becoming, Gretchen's Gestapo. She's now sending teams out from MI OSHA. They're sending teams out across the state to do SNAP compliance inspections on businesses to make sure that they're following her decrees to the letter. Does that sound like a totalitarian state to you? Because it sure does to me. Who can say where it's going to go over the next 3 months? We're almost at the 3-month mark from the election, but I'm sure she'll come up with some other things. But I have one of the reasons I wanted to talk to all of you tonight is I learned that a good friend of mine who's been part of this struggle for a long time could be losing her freedom tomorrow. Because she was judged to have broken the law, one of Gretchen's decrees, Yeah, she could be losing, her freedom tomorrow. I'm not going to mention her name right now, but if all of you could keep her in your prayers. She's got a family too, and I'm sure that they're going through hell right now, worrying about their future in the middle of all this shit, because she answered the call. She chose to stand up for all of our freedom here. And now it looks very likely that she's going to be punished for that. I plan to speak out about that in more detail and tell you more about that situation. Probably on tomorrow's podcast, I'll talk about that. But yeah, we're in the early innings here of this fight, and freedom isn't free. None of us are going to be delivered to our liberty on a feather bed. But I wanted to mention that to you because she's been an inspiration to me, and I know to many of you as well out there. We need heroes and heroines like that. The founding fathers, yeah, some of them were rich landowners, but not all of them. Paul Revere was a blacksmith. Sam Adams was he was a bar owner. A lot of the people who fought in the Revolutionary War were just farmers, But when the call came, they answered it. And we've got to keep that in mind, that it's not going to this fight isn't going to be fought by the Republican Party. Okay? Most of them are worthless. Most of them they're in politics for the money and the power, the prestige. They say the right things, but they don't mean them. They don't have what it takes to stay in this fight. So this is a gut check time right now for all of us, because as the dangers draw ever nearer to us, as our friends and family are attacked by the left, reality's setting in now. This is happening. They are doing this to us. And you've got to make sure right now that your heart's in this fight. Regardless of what comes down the line, you've got to make that commitment to yourself, to your family, your friends, to your community. You're right, Sergey. We have to stand up. We have to be resolute in our determination to fight tyranny throughout this land, because the left's armies of darkness are on the march everywhere we look. And they're attacking everything that we hold dear. Our faith, our families, our freedom, it's all under attack. And there's nowhere to run. So, the only thing I can say to you is, when you make that decision, I think it'll help you to find some peace. It's something, if you're religious, you need to pray about that. Pray for our leaders, for sure. But pray for yourself, that you will have the strength and fortitude to see this through to the end, whatever the cost. Because ultimately, you're each going to have to make that decision, and you're going to have to say to yourself, I may only be a janitor, or I may only be a bus driver, or a factory worker, but I can be like Paul Revere, or I can be like Betsy Ross, because we are living in historic times. We're making history up as we go along right now. And just because you don't have an Ivy League education, or you're not rich or famous, doesn't mean that you can't fight, that you can't strike a blow for freedom. And together, they can't stop us. They can't stop us. There's millions of us. And together we can take our country back. It's just, we've got to band together, and we have to commit within ourselves, but we also have to pledge to each other, What did they say the first time? In support of this declaration, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. That's the level of commitment that we're all going to have right now, to win this civil war that we're all involved in. I pray that it's a peaceful end. I really do. There's already been violence. There's already been bloodshed here that we've seen around the country, with the exploits of these left-wing terrorist groups, BLM and Antifa. I don't want things to go further in that direction, but at the same time, think of all of our brave men and women in uniform who bled and died on foreign battlefields to preserve these freedoms for all of us. If we knuckle under, if we give in to the left, we're forfeiting everything that they fought for. We're betraying them. I'm not willing to do that. And I hope you're not either. So if it comes to that point where it's us or we're living under communist tyranny, then I'm going to fight. And I'd hope to see many of you alongside me at that point, because what we have here is priceless, and we can't allow the left to take that from us, or we'll never see freedom again in our lifetimes, and more than likely our kids never would either. And I can't stand that thought of for them to have to live their lives out in fear under a totalitarian state, a technological dictatorship. I will not have that. I will not have that. And if I have to lay down my life to protect this, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I've had a good life, you know. It's been, you know, but I love this country, and I love my family too much to let that happen. So I'm ready. I'm ready whichever way it goes. I'll be there. I'm resolved, and I've made my decision. And yeah, I take comfort in your friendship, and you know, the camaraderie that we all share in the patriot movement. That's meant the world to me. So I've met some of the best friends I've ever had in this movement, and I know that's true for many of you as well. So I don't want to keep you guys any longer. I know it's late, but yeah, keep my friend in your prayers, and I'll have more for all of you tomorrow on the podcast for sure. But hope you all have a good night. God bless. Bye.